Hello everyone, welcome to Franklin Park's Zoo to You. My name is Nicole, I'm a keeper here in the Hose and Horns department, and today we're taking you out front to our Serengeti exhibit. We have 3 species on this exhibit and they're all kind of approaching, which is very exciting. We have 2 Hartman mountain zebras, so up front here is Kamalu, and then to our left out of frame, we might be going over there we go, is our male Comas. We also have 2 ostriches. We have a male named Julius and a female named Wub. And I'm really excited that our 3 wildebeests are on the move because I don't think have been spotlighted yet on our Zoo to You. We have 3 females. So up front is Ellie, and then in the back, kind of on the far side, is Lulu, and then kind of closer to us is Bobby. And wildebeest are pretty cool, and we really wanted to spotlight them today. So what they're doing right now is they're kind of looking around for hay and something to munch, which is what they'd normally be doing. They tend to be found in kind of grassy areas, open spaces, mostly to the southern parts of Africa, more towards the east. And they would be oftentimes found with zebras, not necessarily Hartman mountain zebras. Hartman mountain zebras are found really south and are, not as common. Wildebeests are of, I believe, least concern. But wildebeests are often found with plain zebras. And something interesting is that as the plain zebras come through, they'll eat kind of the taller grasses, and then the wildebeest will eat kind of the shorter grasses, just kind of the way that their mouths are formed. They're just more suited to eating those lower grasses. And these guys also tend to do a lot of walking. They on an average day to day could walk, up to 1.5 miles or more, but when they're migrating, they can go up to 75 miles during a migration period. And when they're migrating, they're looking for food sources, of course, and they're kind of following the rain. So it's fairly suiting today that it's a little bit wet out. So they'll be following that rain because obviously that's encouraging plant growth, which is pretty interesting. So our 3 wildebeests here, we have Lulu, who is the oldest, and she is 7 years old. And then our 2 younger ladies are 4 years old. And there are 2 different species of wildebeest. Here at Franklin Park Zoo, we have the blue variety, and there's also a black species of wildebeest. And they're just looking around. So normally when you guys visit the zoo, a lot of times if you're here early in the morning, they'll be out looking for food really up close to you all. And then as the day progresses towards the afternoon, they kind of make their way towards the back of the exhibit. And that's kind of their favorite place to rest. Midday is kind of their resting period, and then maybe in the evening they'll get a little bit more active and start eating again. So it's really exciting that these guys are walking around for you guys right now. They're probably looking for a nice place to get out of the rain. You also saw that 2 of them did have a little interaction there where they kind of moved their horns around towards each other. It's called sparring. That was a very gentle one. It's more of like a, the equivalent of you kind of swatting your hand at someone like, hey, stop it. It's not necessarily threatening or anything. It's just kind of saying, hey, I want a little bit more space. But obviously, sparring can be more intense depending on the situation. Males do defend a territory of usually like around 1.5 miles. Usually a territorial male will be around 4 to 6 years old and older. He's kind of looking to have a couple females around him and in his breeding space, so he'll be very protective of that area and fight off younger or weaker males to defend his territory. And mothers can be very protective as well with their calves. they'll oftentimes work together to protect their calves. There is safety in numbers, but it's kind of interesting that larger herds are often preyed on more. And that's because, maybe if you're in a really, really large group, you'll be like, oh, the person next to me is looking out for trouble. And, in a smaller group, everyone is looking out for trouble. But if they do notice a threat approaching, they'll make vocalizations, they'll sway their horns back and forth and their heads back and forth as a warning to say, hey, back off. And they'll oftentimes band together as well to drive out a predator. So, if a cheetah was approaching them and they saw it happening, they could kind of drive it out just by following it. So really, really interesting. Sure. We have a question. Will Lulu be breeding them? No. So these guys are all females. We used to have a breeding male here at Franklin Park Zoo. He was a really amazing animal. His name was Micaeus, and he ended up going to another facility just because we, as a zoo, decided maybe we didn't want to breed wildebeest. We wanted to have a female herd and be a place for them as they age and mature. And that's something that we really enjoy as well. And there is a species survival program for these guys, and different zoos do collaborate, and we've been approached, to receive other females potentially, but we don't have any plans on breeding and having any babies.
And Lisa asked, what other animal are they related to, like antelope, zebra, ox?
So they are considered bovine. So there's two different kind of groups of that, but they're more so fall into the category of antelopes. That's a very, very good question. During this, you might actually hear some mooing. That's not coming from them. That's coming from our children's zoo who's behind us.
Someone asked how it's not raining here. I think it's just not showing up on camera.
Yeah, it's not showing up on camera. I'm definitely getting rained on. I've got my hood on. You just might not be able to see it. It's kind of patchy and going back and forth. We started off with no rain.
Speaking of the weather, are these guys out in the winter too?
That's a great question. Are these guys out in the winter? They are. So these guys are very tolerant. So things that we look for our animals' comfort level are they shivering? Are they still being active? Are they feeding? Are they interacting with each other? Woo, Lulu's excited there. And as long as, they seem happy in terms of what I just described, they'll have access to their exhibit. They can go out. They tend to like being out here, but if it's really, really cold, like maybe if it's going to drop, into the teens, maybe we'll keep them off exhibit because they do have a shelter in their behind-the-scenes area where they'll oftentimes go to, seek warmer, it's heated, it's luxury for them. They've got it made in that space, so we do open that up to them, and we try to encourage them to come off exhibit every night for their safety, but sometimes they make the choice to stay out on exhibit overnight.
Well, as they're retreating a little bit, this might be a good spot to wrap up. Unless there's anything else you want to say about these guys or anyone else from the Serengeti.
Oh, well, I think everyone should definitely come visit and appreciate this space. A multi-species exhibit is a really exciting one. These animals are able to engage with each other, both with different species and their own species, and you can kind of see how that plays out. And thank you guys all for visiting us virtually on this rainy day.